The chamber stretched wide enough to hold a small city. Ambassador Lisa Monroe stood at the human delegation platform, her hands clasped behind her back as she watched the alien representatives file into their seats. Above her, holographic displays showed star charts and territorial boundaries that glowed in soft blue light. The air smelled sterile, filtered through systems designed to accommodate hundreds of different species. Captain Holland stood 2 steps behind Lisa, his uniform crisp and his expression neutral. He had commanded Earth's escort vessel for the past 6 months, and he had learned to keep his thoughts hidden when surrounded by aliens who considered humans little more than children playing with stolen technology. High Chancellor entered last, his forearms moving in a gesture that his species used for formal greetings. The leader stood nearly 3 meters tall, his gray skin covered in ceremonial markings that showed his rank. He settled into the central seat, and the chamber fell silent. "We gather today to discuss territorial assignments for our member species," said, his voice translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously. "Earth has requested a position in the Council. We must decide what systems they will receive under our protection." Lisa stepped forward. "Earth requests consideration for the sector. Our surveys show 3 habitable worlds and significant mineral resources, we believe." Laughter erupted from the left side of the chamber. Commander of the military stood, his scaled face twisted in what passed for amusement among his kind. "The humans want. That sector borders 3 major trade routes. What makes you think you deserve such a strategic location?" "Our population exceeds 8 billion, Lisa said calmly. "We have successfully colonized our moon and Mars. We have demonstrated." "You have demonstrated that you can barely leave your own planet," interrupted. He tapped a control panel and a holographic display appeared above the chamber floor. Images of human spacecraft rotated slowly in the air. "These are your warships, fusion drives that struggle to reach half-light speed, kinetic weapons that any proper shield system can deflect. You call this a fleet." More laughter rippled through the chamber. Lisa felt tense behind her, but she raised one hand slightly, signaling him to remain calm. Held up a hand for silence. "Commander speaks truth, though perhaps too harshly. Earth's technology is developing. We do not question your potential, Ambassador Monroe. But you must understand that the galaxy is dangerous. Species with capabilities like yours cannot defend valuable territory." "Then help us improve our defenses," Lisa said. "Share technology, allow us to trade freely, give us the chance to prove ourselves." "We have studied your history," another voice called out. A Pelian delegate stood, her tentacles waving gently. "You have fought 300 wars in the past 1,000 years. Your own planet still bears scars from nuclear weapons. How can we trust you with strategic territory when you cannot even maintain peace among yourselves?" Spoke for the first time, his voice carrying across the chamber. "We learned from those wars. Every conflict taught us something. We understand the cost of violence better than most species here." Laughed again. "The cost, let me show you cost." He manipulated the controls and new images appeared. Alien warships moved through space, their weapons tearing apart asteroids the size of Earth's moon. "This is what real military power looks like. Your entire fleet could not damage a single one of these vessels." Leaned forward. "We mean no insult, Ambassador Monroe, but the Council has decided that Earth requires oversight. We will grant you the outer rim system you requested initially. 3 barren planets, far from any trade routes or strategic locations. You will develop there under the protection and guidance of the Empire." "Protection," Lisa's voice remained steady, but her eyes narrowed. "Or control." "Call it what you wish," said. "The decision is made. You will accept our terms, or you will find yourselves without any territory at all. The galaxy is not kind to weak species who overestimate their importance." The chamber filled with the sounds of agreement. Delegates from dozens of species nodded or made gestures of approval. Lisa looked around at them all, seeing the dismissal in their expressions, the casual contempt of those who considered themselves superior. She took a breath and spoke clearly. "The Council is making a mistake." Silence fell, his expression darkened. "Are you threatening us?" "No," Lisa said. "I am warning you. Earth did not survive ice ages, plagues, and world wars by being weak. We survived by being adaptable, by being smart, by being patient." She paused, meeting eyes directly. "You look at our ships and see primitive technology. You look at our weapons and see toys, but you are not seeing everything." "Are you claiming Earth has hidden capabilities?" asked mockingly. Secret weapons perhaps, super shields, magical drives that exceed light speed. Lisa smiled slightly. I am claiming that you should not assume you know everything about us just because we showed you what we wanted you to see. The laughter started again, but it sounded forced this time. Waved his hand dismissively. Your posturing is noted, Ambassador. The vote stands. Earth will accept the Outer Rim system and oversight. You have 30 standard days to begin relocation of your colonial assets. His communicator buzzed softly. He glanced down at the message, and his expression did not change, but Lisa caught the slight movement of his head. The signal she had been waiting for. We will consider your generous offer, Lisa said, her tone dry. But I suggest the Council reconsider as well. You have made judgments based on incomplete information. In our history, that has always led to unpleasant surprises. She turned and walked toward the exit, following close behind. As they left the chamber, Lisa heard the aliens laughing and talking among themselves. They thought they had won. They thought they understood Earth's position. Outside in the corridor moved beside her. The message came through, he said quietly. Admiral Bishop confirms all systems are ready. They are asking for final authorization. Not yet, Lisa said. Let them think they have us cornered. Let them believe their own assessments. She looked back at the closed chamber doors. They need to make the first move. When they do, they will learn what humanity does best. Armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, exactly 14 days after the Council meeting. 200 warships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the distant light of the sun. Each vessel stretched half a kilometer long, bristling with plasma cannons and missile pods that could level continents. General stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. The primitive human appeared as a blue dot in the center of his screen, utterly defenseless against the power he commanded. Begin scanning for their defensive installations, ordered. His communications officer worked quickly, and within minutes the results appeared on the main screen. Sir, we detect approximately 40 orbital platforms around the third planet. Each platform appears to be armed with kinetic and basic missile systems. No energy shields detected. No faster-than-light capable warships in the vicinity. His mandibles clicked together in amusement. 40 platforms against 200 warships. Did they truly believe these would stop us? Admiral Frank Bishop watched the same tactical display from Earth's orbital command station. The fleet glowed red on his screen, each ship's weapon systems already powered up and ready to fire. Around him, officers worked at their stations with practiced efficiency, their faces showing no panic despite the overwhelming force that had just arrived. Sir, they are broadcasting on all frequencies, his communications officer reported. Put it through, Bishop said. General's face appeared on the screen, his alien features twisted in what might have been satisfaction. Humans of Earth, I am General of the Imperial Fleet. You have been assigned to our protection by order of the Galactic Council. You will immediately transmit surrender codes for all military installations and prepare to receive our occupation forces. Resistance will result in the destruction of your cities. You have 1 standard hour to comply. Bishop leaned back in his chair. General, I am Admiral Frank Bishop, commanding Earth's home fleet. Your arrival is noted. However, we require 48 hours to consult with our political leaders and coordinate a proper response to your generous offer. His laughter echoed through the speakers. 48 hours to discuss the inevitable. Very well, we will demonstrate our patience, but do not test us further, Admiral. My weapons can reach your planet from here. The transmission ended. Bishop turned to his tactical officer. Status on the horizon. Captain Grant reports her ship is in position at the target coordinates. All systems are functioning normally. Good, tell her to continue the survey mission exactly as planned. Make it look routine. Far beyond Pluto's orbit, the science vessel Horizon drifted through space, its sensors scanning the outer reaches of the solar system. Captain Grant stood in her small bridge, reviewing star charts that showed nothing of particular interest. Her crew of 20 went about their duties with calm professionalism. Captain, we have incoming, her sensor officer called out. 3 patrol ships on intercept course. Nodded, maintain heading. Do not power weapons. Send standard scientific survey credentials on all frequencies. The ships closed quickly, their superior drives cutting the distance in minutes. A harsh voice came through the communications system. Human vessel, you will halt and prepare for inspection. This is Captain Grant of the research ship Horizon. We are conducting routine deep space surveys as authorized by. Your authorizations mean nothing. The Empire now controls this system. Power down your drives and await boarding. Glanced at her communications officer and nodded once. The officer's hands moved quickly across his console, sending a tight beam encrypted transmission that lasted less than a second. Then he shut down the communications array entirely. All stop, ordered. Kill the main drive, make it look like we are cooperating. The horizon went dark, its running lights dimming to minimal power. The ships circled like predators, their sensors probing every centimeter of the human vessel's hull. Back in Earth's solar system, General watched as his fleet advanced slowly toward the inner planets. His tactical officer provided constant updates on the pathetic human defenses. Every hour, they transmitted demands for surrender. Every hour, Admiral Bishop requested more time. They are stalling, second-in-command observed. Perhaps they hope reinforcements will arrive. From where? Gestured at the tactical display. We have monitored all approaches to this system. No human ships have entered or left for weeks. They have nothing. They are simply afraid to accept reality. Sir, our patrol ships report the human science vessel has been secured. It appears to be exactly what they claimed. Just a survey ship with basic sensors and no weapons. Destroy it anyway, said. Let the humans know we are serious. Actually, sir, the ship powered down completely when we approached. It appears to have suffered some kind of system failure. It is drifting. Waved a hand dismissively. Leave it. Focus on the primary objective. He opened a channel to his entire fleet. All ships advance to Mars orbit. If the humans have not surrendered by the time we reach the fourth planet, we will begin bombardment of their military installations. The Armada moved forward, 200 warships gliding through space with the confidence of absolute superiority. They passed the asteroid belt without incident. They crossed the orbit of Mars, and still no human ships rose to challenge them. On Earth, people gathered in public squares and living rooms, watching news broadcasts that showed the alien fleet growing larger with each passing hour. Some panicked, some prayed, but most watched with a strange calm, as if they knew something the aliens did not. Admiral Bishop stood at his command post, watching the fleet advance. His officers glanced at him occasionally, waiting for orders, but he remained still as stone. Sir, they will be in weapons range of our orbital platforms in 30 minutes, his tactical officer said. Noted. Sir, they are broadcasting a final ultimatum. General says we have 1 hour for unconditional surrender or they will open fire. Acknowledged. Bishop looked at the clock on his display. Then he looked at a second screen, one that showed a live feed from a probe deep in the outer solar system. Jupiter filled most of the frame, its great red spot swirling with storms that had raged for centuries. His communications officer spoke quietly. Sir, coded transmission from the horizon. Message reads, Leviathan is in position. Bishop allowed himself a small smile. Signal all stations. Begin countdown sequence. Authorization code Bishop 77 Omega. Activate in 55 minutes. Yes, sir. Sat on his command throne, watching the final minutes tick away. The human planet hung before him, blue and green and utterly vulnerable. He had given them every chance to surrender peacefully. Now they would learn what happened to species who the Empire. Sir, his sensor officer said suddenly, we are detecting unusual energy readings from the outer system, near the gas giant. Unusual how? Strong electromagnetic fluctuations, almost like something is powering up. But the readings are enormous, far larger than anything the humans should possess. Studied the data, then he laughed. It is probably some natural phenomenon, a solar flare or magnetic storm. Do not let it distract you. All weapons lock onto the human orbital platforms. Prepare to fire on my command. 200 warships armed their weapons. Targeting computers calculated firing solutions. In 1 hour, the battle would begin. But in the depths of Jupiter's atmosphere, something ancient and terrible was waking up. Systems that had slept 15 years earlier, Dr. Helen Park had stood in a conference room deep beneath the Colorado mountains and watched the world's leaders argue about humanity's future. Representatives from every major nation sat around a table, their faces showing the strain of a secret that could never be revealed. The math is clear, Helen had said, projecting holographic calculations into the air above the table. We cannot compete with alien technology in a direct arms race. Their ships are faster, their weapons are stronger, their shields are better. If we try to match them ship for ship, we will lose. Then what do you suggest? The American president had asked. Helen had smiled. We build one ship, one perfect ship. We hide it where no one will look, and we make it so powerful that numbers do not matter. Now, as the fleet prepared to attack Earth, Helen stood in a control room buried in Jupiter's upper atmosphere. The facility clung to a massive floating platform that had been anchored to the gas giant's internal currents 15 years ago. Around her, hundreds of engineers and technicians worked at stations that monitored the awakening of humanity's greatest secret. Reactor status, Helen asked. Singularity containment holding at optimal levels, a technician replied. Power output climbing to 70%. We will reach full capacity in 12 minutes. Weapons systems. Batteries charging. Graviton beam projector online. All missile tubes loaded and ready. Drive systems. The Singularity drive is ready. We can move as soon as you give the word. Helen looked at the main display, which showed a cross-section view of the Leviathan. The ship stretched 12 kilometers from bow to stern, a massive wedge of armor and weapons that had been built piece by piece in the crushing depths of Jupiter's atmosphere. Automated factories had worked for 15 years, using materials harvested from Jupiter's moons and constructed using designs that humanity had spent decades developing in secret. The ship's hull was, and marked by Jupiter's storms, giving it a weathered appearance that made it look ancient rather than new. But beneath that battered surface lay systems that pushed the boundaries of physics itself. A contained singularity provided near-infinite power. Gravitational manipulation systems allowed movement that ignored traditional thrust mechanics. Weapons that could fire projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Commander Aaron Wells stood at the tactical station, his hands moving across holographic controls as he ran final checks on the weapon systems. All batteries report ready status. Point defense grids are active. Drone launch bays are prepared. Good, Helen said. She opened a channel to Earth. Earth Command, this is Leviathan Station. The ship is ready for deployment. Admiral Bishop's voice came through clearly despite the distance. Confirmed, Leviathan Station. You have authorization to proceed with activation. Captain Gregory Nash is transmitting final command codes now. On the bridge of the Leviathan, Captain Gregory Nash sat in the command chair and entered his authorization codes. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen 3 wars before humanity learned they were not alone in the galaxy. The military had chosen him to command Earth's ultimate weapon because he understood when to fight and when to hold back. Around him, his bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. Lieutenant Sophie sat at the weapons station, her fingers dancing across controls as she familiarized herself with systems that could destroy fleets. The navigation officer plotted courses that would take them from Jupiter to Earth in minutes rather than hours. The communications officer maintained links to every major military installation on the planet. All systems green, Gregory said quietly. Helm, begin ascent, take us up slowly. I want to see how she handles before we push her. The Leviathan began to rise through Jupiter's atmosphere. Storms that could swallow Earth whole raged around the massive hull, but the ship's shields barely registered the violence. Higher and higher it climbed, leaving behind the concealed station that had birthed it. Lieutenant piloted a small reconnaissance drone high above Jupiter's cloud layer. He had volunteered for this duty specifically because he wanted to be the first to see the Leviathan in open space. His drone cameras were aimed at the coordinates where the ship should emerge. Come on, whispered to himself. Show me what 15 years of work looks like. Jupiter's great red spot began to glow. Lightning danced across the storm in patterns that were not natural. The clouds bulged upward as something enormous pushed through from below. Then the Leviathan broke free. His breath caught in his throat. The ship rose like a predator emerging from deep water, its hull streaming with gases that evaporated into space. Running lights ignited along its length, thousands of them, turning the massive vessel into a constellation that nearby moons. The ship's wedge shape looked aggressive and purposeful, every line designed for war. Earth Command, are you seeing this? Transmitted. The Leviathan is clear of Jupiter, she is beautiful. On Earth, Admiral Bishop watched the same footage with satisfaction. Around him, officers cheered and applauded. They had kept this secret for 15 years, through countless inspections by alien observers, through meetings where they had been mocked for their primitive technology. Now the truth was emerging from Jupiter's depths. "Send to Leviathan," Bishop ordered. "Captain Nash, you are cleared for approach to Earth. Show them what we have been building." Gregory acknowledged the order and looked at his helmsman. "Plot a course for Earth, best speed. Let us not keep the waiting." The helmsman's fingers moved across his console. "Sir, at maximum speed we can reach Earth in 42 minutes. "Make it 30, Gregory said. "I want to arrive while they still think they are in control." The Leviathan's singularity drive engaged. Space bent around the massive ship as it began to accelerate in ways that should not be possible. The vessel did not push against space with conventional thrust. Instead, it fell forward through warped spacetime, reaching speeds that made the fleet's drives look primitive. General stood on his flagship's bridge, watching the countdown to bombardment tick towards zero. In 10 minutes, his fleet would open fire on Earth's orbital platforms. In 20 minutes, the human would learn the price of defiance. "Sir," his sensor officer said nervously, "those energy readings from the gas giant are increasing dramatically. Whatever is generating them is moving toward us. Fast." "How fast?" demanded. "Faster than our ships can travel, sir. Significantly faster." "Impossible. The humans do not have that technology." "Sir, visual confirmation coming through now." The main display changed to show a long-range sensor image. At first, could not understand what he was seeing. The object was too large to be a ship. It looked more like a small moon moving at impossible speed. "Magnify," he ordered. The image zoomed in, and suddenly the shape resolved into something recognizable. A ship. A massive ship covered in weapons ports and armor plating that looked thick enough to shrug off anything his fleet could throw at it. "What is that?" whispered. On Earth, news broadcasts suddenly changed their feeds. Every major network showed the same image. The Leviathan approaching, its hull illuminated by running lights, its weapons clearly visible even at extreme range. People in public squares stopped panicking and started cheering, because for 15 years they had known the truth, not all of it, but enough. They had known that humanity was not as weak as it pretended to be. They had known that somewhere out there, something was being built to protect them. And now that protection was coming home. The Leviathan crossed the orbit of Mars in minutes. It did not slow down. It did not transmit warnings or threats. It simply came on like a force of nature, inevitable and unstoppable. Gregory Nash sat in his command chair and watched the fleet scramble to respond. "Open a channel to the flagship," he ordered. "Let me talk to their general." The communications officer worked his console. "Channel open, sir." General stared at the human captain on his screen. Behind Gregory Nash, he could see a bridge that looked too large, too advanced, too impossible for the primitive species he had been sent to conquer. "You think one ship frightens me?" snarled. "I have 200 warships at my command. Your vessel is large, but size means nothing against superior numbers and firepower." "Then test that theory," Gregory said calmly. "Open fire, see what happens." "Cut the transmission." His hands shook with rage at the human's arrogance. "All ships, battle formation Delta, target that vessel with everything we have. I want it reduced to debris." 200 warships moved into attack positions. Plasma cannons powered up, their energy signatures bright enough to be detected from Earth. Missile tubes opened, revealing thousands of warheads designed to crack planetary shields. Energy weapons that could boil oceans locked onto the approaching human vessel. Fire roared. The space between the fleets lit up with destruction. Plasma bolts crossed the distance at near light speed. Missiles launched in waves, their drives burning bright as they accelerated toward the Leviathan. Energy beams that could cut through ship hulls like paper focused on a single target. On the Leviathan's bridge, Lieutenant Sophie watched her defensive displays track every incoming threat. "Sir, detecting massive weapons discharge. 2,300 individual targets incoming." "Shield status?" Gregory asked. "Shields at full power, all defensive systems ready." "Then let us see if 15 years of work paid off." The weapons struck the Leviathan with enough force to destroy a city. Plasma washed over the ship's shields in waves of superheated matter. Missiles detonated in clusters, their explosions bright enough to blind unprotected sensors. Energy beams hammered against the barrier that surrounded the massive human vessel. And the shields held. Not just held, they barely flickered. The Leviathan's defensive systems used the same gravitational manipulation technology as its drive, bending space itself to redirect incoming energy away from the hull. The plasma bolts splashed harmlessly into twisted space. The missiles detonated against fields that were not actually there. The energy beams found their target moved slightly out of phase with reality. "Damage report," Gregory said quietly. "Shields at 98%, Sophie reported. "Minor fluctuations in sections 7 and 12, all systems nominal." Watched in disbelief as the human ship emerged from the barrage completely intact. Again, all ships continuous fire. The fleet unleashed everything it had. For 3 full minutes, 200 warships poured destruction at the Leviathan. The space around the human vessel became a storm of explosions and energy discharges. Surely nothing could survive such an assault. But when the barrage finally stopped, the Leviathan still hung in space, its shields glowing softly, its hull untouched. "They cannot hurt us, sir," Sophie said with satisfaction. Gregory nodded. "Then it is our turn, weapons free. Show them what real firepower looks like." Sophie's hands moved across her console. "Aye, sir, engaging batteries." Along the Leviathan's hull, hundreds of weapon ports opened. Inside each port, a magnetic accelerator stretched back into the ship's armored core. These were not the primitive kinetic weapons that had mocked at the council meeting. These were that used a controlled singularity to power their magnetic fields, accelerating projectiles to 30% of light speed. "Firing," Sophie said. The spoke with a sound that was more felt than heard. Solid metal projectiles, each weighing several tons, launched from the Leviathan at velocities that turned them into relativistic weapons. At such speeds, the projectiles did not need explosives. Simple kinetic energy was enough to devastate anything they hit. The first salvo caught 3 cruisers unprepared. The projectiles hit their shields and punched through like they were not there. The metal slugs struck the ship's hulls and kept going, tearing through armor, reactors, crew compartments, and out the other side. The cruisers broke apart, their hulls shredding as internal explosions consumed them. "Adjusting fire," Sophie said. "Engaging targets 4 through 20. The fired again and again. Each salvo destroyed or crippled multiple ships. The alien fleet tried to maneuver, tried to present harder targets, but the Leviathan's targeting computers tracked them effortlessly. Ships that had terrified Earth moments before became expanding clouds of debris. "Sir, they are attempting to retreat," the tactical officer reported. "Not yet," Gregory said. He stood from his chair and walked to the forward viewport. "Lieutenant, show them the main weapon. Target the 3 largest cruisers in their formation." Sophie's expression grew serious. "Sir, the graviton beam projector." "Yes, 1 shot, make it count." She entered commands into her console. Deep in the Leviathan's core, the same singularity that powered the ship began to redirect its output to a different system. A weapon that did not fire projectiles or energy. A weapon that manipulated gravity itself. "Target lock acquired," Sophie said. 3 heavy cruisers, range optimal, graviton beam projector ready. "Fire." The weapon did not produce a visible beam. It did not create explosions or flashes of light. Instead, it reached across space and seized 3 cruisers in an invisible grip. The ship's own mass became their enemy as gravity intensified around them, pulling them inward with impossible force. The crews had no time to understand what was happening. Their ship simply crumpled, hulls collapsing as if crushed by a giant hand. Metals screamed and bulkheads failed. In seconds, each cruiser compressed into a sphere of wreckage. Then the graviton beam's power peaked, and the 3 spheres of destroyed ships collapsed further, forming tiny singularities that burned bright for a moment before evaporating into hawking radiation. Absolute silence filled the fleet's communications channels. They had just watched 3 of their largest ships compressed into black holes and then annihilated. The same weapon that powered the human vessel had erased 3 warships from existence. "Deploy the drones," Gregory ordered. "Let us finish this." Launch bays along the Leviathan's hull opened, and thousands of small craft poured out. These were not manned fighters. They were autonomous drones, each one controlled by an artificial intelligence that could think and react faster than any living pilot. They moved with inhuman precision, darting between ships like a swarm of angry wasps. The drones carried their own weapons, small plasma cannons, missile pods, and mining lasers repurposed for combat. Individually, they were no match for a warship, but thousands of them working in perfect coordination could overwhelm even the strongest defenses. They swarmed over the fleet like locusts. They targeted weapon systems, engine ports, shield generators. They flew in patterns that confused point defense systems. They worked together to focus fire on single targets, bringing down shields through sheer persistence before destroying the vulnerable ships beneath. Watched his fleet fall apart. In less than 20 minutes, he had lost over 100 ships. The rest were damaged, scattered, their crews panicking as the human drones picked them apart with ruthless efficiency. His second-in-command looked at him with fear in his eyes. "Sir, we must retreat. We cannot win this battle." "One ship," whispered. "One human ship destroyed my entire fleet." "Sir, we need to withdraw now." Sub-Commander took command of a squadron of remaining destroyers. He was younger than, and he refused to accept defeat. "All ships in Squadron 7 follow me. We will ram the human vessel. At full speed, we can breach its shields through sheer mass." "Negative," started to say, but had already cut communications. 10 destroyers broke formation and accelerated directly at the Leviathan, their drives pushing them to maximum speed. Crew armed every weapon, preparing to fire at point-blank range when they struck the human ship. On the Leviathan, Sophie tracked their approach. "Sir, 10 ships on ramming course. Impact in 40 seconds. "Point defense systems," Gregory said calmly. "Engage." The Leviathan's hull came alive with hundreds of small laser turrets. These were designed to intercept incoming missiles and debris, but they worked just as well against ships that flew in straight lines. The lasers fired in rapid pulses, each burst capable of melting through ship armor. His destroyer took hits first. Lasers carved into his ship's hull, slicing through the bridge, the reactor, the engine compartment. His ship broke apart before it could get within a kilometer of the Leviathan. The other 9 destroyers suffered the same fate, reduced to debris by defensive systems that never missed. Watched it all from his damaged flagship. His fleet was broken, his pride was shattered, and the human vessel still hung in space, barely scratched. "Retreat," he said quietly. "All remaining ships retreat to the outer system. We are finished here." The surviving warships turned and fled, their drives burning at maximum as they tried to escape the killing zone. The human drones did not pursue. They simply returned to the Leviathan, flowing back into their launch bays like water into a reservoir. Gregory watched them go. "Communications, open a channel, all frequencies. I want everyone to hear this." "Channel open, sir." Gregory stood straight, his voice carrying to every remaining ship and to every listening station throughout the galaxy. "This is Captain Gregory Nash of the Leviathan. Earth did not want this fight. We would have preferred to join the galactic community peacefully. But you mistook our desire for peace as weakness. You thought our restraint meant we could not fight." He paused. "You were wrong. Earth has been fighting itself for thousands of years. We know war. We understand violence. And we chose to be better than our history, but we will not be conquered, we will not be enslaved, and we will not be dismissed." Another pause. "Tell your council what happened here today. Tell them Earth is no longer asking for a seat at the table. We are taking it." He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. "Helm, take us to Earth. Standard orbit. I want our home to see what the Galactic Council chamber filled faster than it had in decades." Representatives from hundreds of species crowded into their designated areas, many standing because all seats were taken. News of the fleet's defeat had spread across the galaxy in hours, carried by the surviving ships and the countless monitoring stations that had witnessed the battle. High Chancellor sat in his central throne, his 4 arms clasped together in a gesture of deep thought. Around him, delegates argued in dozens of languages, their translators struggling to keep up with the chaos. Some demanded immediate military action against Earth. Others urged caution. A few suggested that perhaps they had badly underestimated the human species. Ambassador Lisa Monroe entered the chamber with Captain Holland at her side. The noise dropped as aliens noticed her presence. She walked to the human delegation platform with the same calm confidence she had shown 2 weeks ago, when this council had laughed at Earth's capabilities. Commander rose from his seat, his scales darkened with rage. You deceived us. You deliberately hid your military strength while we assessed you as weak and defenseless. We never lied, Lisa said clearly. You asked about our fleet, we showed you our fleet. You asked about our weapons, we showed you our weapons. You simply assumed that was everything we had. You let us believe you were helpless, a Pelian delegate called out. No, Lisa corrected. You decided we were helpless based on incomplete information. That was your mistake, not our deception. Held up a hand for silence. The chamber gradually quieted. Ambassador Monroe, the Council demands an explanation. You presented yourself as a species barely capable of interplanetary travel, yet you possess a warship that single-handedly destroyed our armada of 200 vessels. Where did this ship come from? How long have you been hiding it? Lisa looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of dozens of alien species. Let me tell you a story about humanity. For thousands of years, we fought each other. We built weapons to kill our own kind. We waged wars that left our planet. We developed nuclear weapons capable of destroying our entire civilization, and we came very close to using them. The chamber was silent now, listening. But we learned something from those wars, Lisa continued. We learned that strength without wisdom leads to destruction. We learned that showing all your weapons invites attack. We learned that sometimes the best way to avoid conflict is to look weak until you have no choice but to show strength. Spoke up. When we first detected alien transmissions, we knew we were behind technologically. We saw your ships traveling faster than light. We intercepted your communications describing weapons we could not match, so we made a decision. You decided to build the Leviathan, said. We decided to build 12 Leviathans, Lisa corrected. The ship you saw was only the first. The others are in various stages of completion. We expected this project to take 30 years. Thanks to automated construction and resources from our outer planets, we completed the first in 15. The revelation sent shocked murmurs through the chamber. 12 ships like the one that had destroyed the fleet. The implications were staggering. Admiral Frank Bishop's image appeared on a holographic display above the chamber floor. He looked tired but satisfied. Members of the Council, I want to be clear about Earth's intentions. We did not build these ships to conquer. We built them to survive. We hoped we would never need to use them. Yet you did use one, accused. You destroyed a fleet without hesitation. The fleet came to conquer Earth, Bishop replied. They gave us 1 hour to surrender or face bombardment. We offered them a chance to withdraw peacefully. General chose to attack. We responded in kind. He paused. But we showed restraint. Captain Nash could have destroyed every ship. Instead, he allowed survivors to escape and carry word of what happened. We do not want to be conquerors. We want to be equals. Leaned forward. And if we refuse to accept Earth as an equal, if we declare you a threat and unite against you? Lisa smiled slightly. Then you will lose, not because we want war, but because we are very good at it. Humanity has been perfecting the art of warfare for 10,000 years. We know strategy. We know tactics. We understand sacrifice and determination. She gestured at the chamber. How many species here have fought wars against themselves? How many have nearly destroyed their own civilizations and then pulled back from the edge? Silence answered her. We did, Lisa said quietly. And we survived. That makes us dangerous, yes, but it also makes us careful. We know what war costs. We will avoid it when possible, but we will not be victims. A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. Perhaps we are looking at this wrong. A delegate moved forward, her crystalline body refracting light into rainbow patterns. Earth did not attack anyone. They prepared defenses. When threatened, they responded with appropriate force. Is that not what any species would do? Appropriate force, snarled. They destroyed 200 ships. They brought 200 ships to conquer a planet, the replied. If Earth had destroyed half that number, they would have brought 400 ships next time. By demonstrating overwhelming power, Earth ended the conflict quickly. That is strategic wisdom, not aggression. Other delegates began nodding. The initial shock was wearing off, replaced by a more careful analysis of what had actually happened. Sat back in his throne. What does Earth want, Ambassador Monroe? Equal standing in this council, Lisa said immediately. Access to trade routes and shared technology, the same rights and responsibilities as any member species, and the territory we originally requested in the sector. And if we refuse, then we will take what we need, Lisa said flatly. Not through conquest, but through our own efforts. We will establish colonies where we choose. We will trade with whoever wants to trade with us. We will defend ourselves against any threats with or without the Council's approval. Added, Earth would prefer to work with the galactic community, but we will not be subordinate to anyone. Those days are over. Looked at the other Council members. Several quiet conversations were happening through private channels. Finally, he turned back to Lisa. The Council will vote on Earth's request for equal status. This is not a decision to make hastily. Of course, Lisa said. Take all the time you need. But know this, while you decide, the Leviathan will remain in orbit around your Council world. Not as a threat, but as a reminder of what humanity can do when pushed. Captain Gregory Nash stood on the bridge of the Leviathan, which now hung in a stable orbit above the planet that housed the Galactic Council chambers. Below him, representatives of hundreds of species were reconsidering everything they thought they knew about humanity. Lieutenant Sophie approached his command chair. Sir, we are receiving communication requests from over 50 different species. They want to establish diplomatic relations with Earth directly. Forward those to Ambassador Monroe, Gregory said. This is her show now. Sir, we are also receiving technical specifications requests. Several species want to know if we will share our graviton beam technology. Gregory laughed quietly. Tell them we will consider it after they recognize us as equals and establish fair trade agreements. Nothing is free. Sophie smiled. They are learning that quickly, sir. On the planet's surface, Lisa watched through a window as the Leviathan passed overhead. The massive ship was visible even in daylight, its hull reflecting sunlight like a second moon. She felt step up beside her. Do you think they will accept us? He asked. They do not have much choice, Lisa replied. We proved we can defend ourselves. We showed restraint by not destroying the entire fleet. And now dozens of species are reaching out to us directly. Knows that refusing Earth now would just push us to form our own alliance bloc. That would split the Council. So we won. Lisa considered the question. We survived, we proved ourselves, we gained respect. She paused. Whether that is winning depends on what happens next. We have the Council's attention. Now we need to show them we can be partners, not just warriors. The Council vote took 3 days. In that time, Lisa met privately with dozens of delegates. Some were hostile, afraid of what humanity represented. Others were curious, intrigued by a species that had been so badly underestimated. A few were openly friendly, seeing opportunities for alliance and trade. When the Council finally reconvened, stood before the assembled delegates. We have discussed Earth's petition for equal standing in this Council. We have reviewed the evidence of their capabilities. We have considered the implications for galactic stability. He paused. The vote is as follows: 371 in favor of granting Earth full membership status, 212 opposed, 43 abstentions. Lisa let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. Earth is hereby granted equal standing in the Galactic Council, continued. You will have full access to trade routes, shared technology databases, and diplomatic channels. You will also assume full responsibilities for maintaining peace and security in your assigned territories. We accept these terms, Lisa said formally. This expression was difficult to read. You have taught us a valuable lesson, Ambassador Monroe. Never underestimate those who appear weak. They may simply be choosing their battles wisely. And you have taught us something as well, Chancellor, Lisa replied. The galaxy is full of species who measure strength only by what they can see. That makes it easy to surprise them. A few delegates laughed at that. The tension in the chamber eased slightly. Over the following weeks, Earth signed treaties with 17 different species. Trade agreements were established. Technology exchanges were negotiated. Human diplomats spread throughout the galaxy, no longer seeking approval but offering partnership. The Leviathan returned to Earth orbit, where it was joined by its sister ships as they completed construction. The galaxy watched nervously as humanity's true fleet took shape. But Earth did not use those ships for conquest. Instead, they used them for exactly what Lisa had promised: defense, exploration, and the protection of trade routes. 6 months after the battle, Commander requested a private meeting with Lisa. They met in a neutral station, far from Earth or the Council world. You made me look like a fool, said without preamble. You made yourself look like a fool, Lisa corrected. You assumed we were weak. You mocked our ships without considering what else we might have. That was your choice, not mine. Was quiet for a moment. Then he said, My species is interested in purchasing graviton beam technology from Earth. We would pay well for it. Perhaps, Lisa said, but first I want something from you. What? An apology, not to me, to Captain Holland. You called our ship's toys in front of the entire council. You laughed at our capabilities. He deserves to hear you admit you were wrong. Scales rippled with displeasure, but eventually he nodded. Very well, I will speak with Captain Holland. Good, Lisa said. Then we can discuss technology transfers. Earth is willing to share with friends, but first you need to prove you are friends. That became humanity's approach to the galaxy. They shared technology with those who treated them with respect. They defended those who could not defend themselves. They established colonies on harsh worlds that other species considered uninhabitable. And they always kept some capabilities secret. Because humanity had learned the most important lesson of all. The galaxy respected strength, but it feared mystery. As long as the aliens wondered what else Earth was hiding, they would think twice before challenging humanity again. Admiral Bishop stood on Earth's orbital command station 1 year after the Leviathan's deployment. Around him, displays showed human colonies spreading across dozens of systems. Trade convoys carried Earth goods to alien markets. Diplomatic channels hummed with negotiations and agreements. We did it, his operations officer said. We made them take us seriously. Bishop nodded. We did, but now comes the hard part, proving we deserve to be taken seriously, showing them we are more than just our weapons, building something that lasts. He looked out at the stars. We survived by being underestimated, now we have to thrive by being understood. On the Leviathan's bridge, Gregory Nash received orders for the ship's next mission. They would be escorting a diplomatic convoy to a species that had requested Earth's help mediating a territorial dispute. No fighting. No displays of force, just protection and presence. He smiled. This was what the Leviathan had really been built for, not conquest but the strength that made peace possible. Earth had shown the galaxy it could fight. Now it would show the galaxy it could build. They had said Earth was weak, but Earth had been patient, careful, and prepared. And when the Leviathan descended from Jupiter's storms, the galaxy learned what humanity had always known. The strongest weapon is the one your enemy never sees until it is too late to stop it. Ted them today. The Leviathan moved forward, passing through the debris field that had once been the fleet. Behind its flagship limped away, carrying the survivors and the message that would change everything. Gregory leaned forward. General, I am Captain Gregory Nash of the Earth Defense Forces. You wanted to see our military capabilities. We are about to demonstrate them. This is your only opportunity to withdraw peacefully. I suggest you take it. And the Leviathan began to rise. What is that? Asked. Lisa's smile turned cold. We surprise our enemies.